Hi everybody, good afternoon. We're so glad that everybody could be here for this important candidates forum. My name is Nisa Talavera. I'm the Associate Editor of the Patagonia Regional Times. We are a nonprofit, nonpartisan community news organization serving Eastern Santa Cruz County. On behalf of the PRT and our board of directors, our citizen journalists and staff, I'd like to welcome our two candidates running for CD7 special election, Republican candidate Danielle Gutierrez and Democratic candidate Adelisa Grijalva. Thank you both for accepting our invitation to be here. We believe that it's imperative as a democracy that we have informed and active participation in government, and that local news has a mandate to take an active role in this process. We hope that through this program you will learn more about the candidates and their vision for our district. I would like to thank Casina Farley, and the Patagonia Creative Arts Association for allowing us this great venue, even with the rain and the tin shed. Right? Okay, some important instructions for our audience. Our restroom is right out the door here to my left. Feel free to leave a much needed and appreciated donation in the jar on the refreshment table to help offset the expense of our event. Please turn off your cell phones, anything that beeps, dings, watches, what have you. The Q&A portion of the forum will last approximately 60 minutes, and we really want to give our guests all the time to talk and answer questions. We ask that everybody show respect for our candidates and one another. There will be zero tolerance for shouting, interruptions, or any sort of disrespectful behavior towards our speakers. Please remain quiet throughout the forum. So no clapping, no cheering, or calling out. Our time is limited, and we really want to make sure we get through the Q&A. This is an informational forum. The forum is being recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel as part of the PRT's ongoing voter education effort to help voters make informed decisions. We are excited to welcome in partner We Love Nogales. We Love Nogales is an online community newsroom covering the southern part of our county, and we've collaborated with them before for these forums, and it's been very successful, so thank you for being here. I would also like to introduce our moderator, Honorable Judge Fink. Thank you for being here. We are grateful to Judge Fink for helping us. He is a resident of Eastern Santa Cruz County, and again, thanks for today's forum. Forum instructions, very quick. I will start by explaining some procedures for our forum. Each candidate will have 3 minutes for an opening statement. The moderator will then ask each candidate a question prepared beforehand, but not shared with our candidates. The order in which the candidates answer questions will be chosen at random. So candidate 1 will have 3 minutes up to 3 minutes to answer the question. Then candidate 2 will be given 1.5 minutes to respond. At the moderator's discretion, candidate 1 may be permitted to reply to candidate 2's response. The moderator will enforce the forum's rules and may interrupt a candidate if he believes the candidate is straying from the subject matter. The candidates shall not interrupt one another. Personal references about the other candidate are out of order. Our goal is civil discourse. At the conclusion of the forum, the candidates will each be given 1 minute for a closing statement. Our timekeepers are right here in the front row. Everybody see their signs okay? Great. There's a half minute, a 1 minute, 15 seconds, so we'll let you know as your time's progressing for each question. When you see the stop card, please conclude your answer. If you keep going, we'll just politely say thank you and move on. That's it. I'll now turn the meeting over to our moderator, Mr. Fink. And thanks everybody for being here. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. First, I have to begin by
saying that I'm here in a private capacity, not as a representative of the Arizona judiciary, and anything that I say or do should not be imputed to the Arizona judiciary. Also, I want everyone to know, I do reside in this district. I am a registered independent, not part of either party, and I did not vote in the primary special election for this, so I'm here as a non-affiliated person. So I believe we start with the candidates each making an opening statement. Was there any particular order that had been decided? Nope. All right, we'll just do it the old-fashioned way then, alphabetically. Mr. Gutierrez, if you'd like to begin.
Hello, thank you for having me here. My name is Daniel Gutierrez. I was born and raised here in Arizona. As a matter of fact, my father used to play football right here in this town back when it was a desert. My grandfather was born in Salamone, and we've been here since the 1800s. Well, my family's been here since the 1800s. Well, what got my passion to run for this is I'm a small business owner. I overcame a lot of obstacles to get to where I am right now, and my biggest passion is the homeless crisis and the drug pandemic. And I want to stop the drugs from pouring across our border, and I want to help the homeless. It's plaguing our entire nation. It's really bad in Tucson. I'm sure you guys don't have it near as bad here, but it is really bad in Tucson. We have 5 people a day dying from fentanyl. We're having, it seems like knife fights every day anymore, people getting stabbed. Someone needs to do something, so I decided to step up and do something because I have the background, the experience behind all this. First off, I did 10 years in the Arizona State Prison. I was a wrongfully convicted man. It took me 30 years before the state admitted it. I wound up overcoming drug addiction, homelessness, to rise up and build a company, and then I bought another company, so I own 2 companies. I'm a successful businessman that's got a history that relates with these people that are struggling in our community, and I also relate with everybody in our community, because at some time in my life I have walked in the shoes of most of the community. I've been poor, I've been wealthy, I've been, hooked with drugs, overcame that. So I'm the ideal person to represent our community, just because I am one of you. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Just a reminder, everybody, we're going to keep the clapping not during the forum, just so we can really expedite the questions and try to get as many questions as we can. So please, if we can just save the applause for the end, we would appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. Hola, buenas tardes. My name is Adelita Grijalva. I am the proud granddaughter of a bracero, a very hard-working Mexican immigrant who came to this country for a better life, and the daughter of a member of Congress. That happened in one generation because of hard work and public education. And so in my life, I think that it's been so important to fight for those who don't have a voice, for people who want justice, equity, and an opportunity to reach their American dream. I am the proud mom of 3 beautiful children. And in our society, we have opportunities, we should have opportunities for everyone to reach their American dream. I remember when my daughter, just this last May, graduated from high school, and I stood on the stage and looked out in a sea of young people in their cap and gowns. And I thought, what kind of future are we setting up for them? And I think that is why I am running for this position. I think Southern Arizona needs a champion, and we need somebody who's going to stand up to this extreme agenda of Trump and make sure that we are putting people's voices and their concerns in the forefront. So I've spent my life fighting for our shared values. I ran a juvenile diversion program right out of college. I graduated from the U of A. I'm educated through all public schools. And when I graduated from the U of A, I started working at a nonprofit called Pima Prevention Partnership. And my job was to create a program for young people who've had a misstep in school, and they were in danger of being suspended or expelled. And one of the things that we know statistically is if there is a child who is expelled or out of school for one day, they are 50% more likely not to graduate from high school. So that was our charge. My charge was to create a program like that. And during that time, I did that for 26 years and worked with thousands of young people who learned from their mistake and weren't involved in the juvenile justice system again or the adult system. And what we know is there are more children of color and people of color in our justice system, and that was what I was trying to work to break in that school to prison pipeline. During that time, I served 20 years on the Tucson Unified School District Governing Board. That is an elected but unpaid position, fighting for the rights of our children and our families. And then 4 years and 4 months on the Pima County Board of Supervisors, working to increase environmental protections, increase housing, preschool, and those are the things I think are critically important, and that's why I'm running, and I'm here to ask humbly for your vote and your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think we'll start with the first question to Ms. Grijalva because you already have the microphone. It sounds like we're in the home stretch of this special election, and you've studied each other, and I think you've had forums together before. And so my question is, what would you say is the issue facing this district for which you have the greatest distance between you and your opponent? I mean, you have a lot of differences on a lot of issues, but what would be the one issue that you would point to where you and your opponent are most apart in or on that issue?
I think the number one threat to our democracy is Trump. And that is where I believe that we're very different. In the policies that he's passed, in that big, beautiful bill that is the largest redistribution of wealth in our nation's history, the attacks and dismantling of our Department of Education, our Department of Labor, small business, the 44% that has been cut to HUD for affordable housing. There's so many instances. The rollback of our environmental protections, which are so critical here in Santa Cruz County, specifically in Patagonia, where so much of the economy is built on ecotourism, that's what's a threat. Because right now, Trump has carte blanche to be able to make a lot of decisions without consulting Congress or the Senate. And that's what we need to roll back. We need to create a better balance of power so all of the branches of government have a voice. Right now, Congress has been pushed out and pushed off, and I think that is the very critical difference because we've only had one forum together and not a lot of debate back and forth. But from what I saw in a previous forum, in the Republican forum, my understanding was my opponent is very supportive of Trump's current agenda, and that's where we differ greatly. And I think really it's not about personalities, and I think that's what's really a difference, and I'm hoping has been a difference in our race versus our primary. I want to focus on policy. And what are we gonna bring that's different? And I think that experience of me being on a school board and being on the Board of Supervisors, understanding what the process is, and that federal government should be supporting local, not coming in and taking over. So I believe that's the biggest difference between the two of us.
Well, I actually believe that what Trump's doing, she's right. I agree with what Trump says, what he's done. But most of this is fear-mongering. Most of these things that people are talking about aren't true. He's not taking our Medicaid. He's not taking our Medicare. These are just lies being pushed out by local media and people because they have nothing else to run on except to hate Trump. The biggest thing that I believe separates me from my opponent is I believe in putting Americans first. I believe we need to address things that are happening to our people. We have people dying in our streets from drugs. We need to stop the drugs. I don't see anyone doing anything to help the people in our streets. Our homeless crisis has begun to get worse and worse and worse. And someone needs to step up and address that. I believe I am the person that can step up and address that. I have a plan that I've been working on for quite some time, and I actually hire the homeless to give them back their self-esteem, to give them a paycheck, because I believe if you put them through treatment and then you kick them back out in the streets, they're gonna return to using drugs again. and we're not accomplishing anything, and it's milking the taxpayers dry. We need a program that works. We need to help these people, and I believe the homeless is one of the biggest things impacting our district. It's in Phoenix, it's in Tucson. All the CD7 in Tucson is filled with the homeless and drugs. They're on the streets. Our kids, 80% of our kids ride the bus, and they're riding the bus with drug addicts because the buses are free. We got to care about our kids. We got to care about our community. Sorry about that.
Thank you. Just a follow-up question, Mr. Gutierrez. I mean, there have been cuts to Medicaid, and I mean, substantial cuts. And I've seen a lot of independent analysis that, although I think what the Congress did is postpone those cuts until after the next congressional election, 2 years from now or so. But there have been significant cuts, and there have been studies that show that Arizonans, thousands and thousands of Arizonans, unless somebody else steps up like the state to pay for that, they will lose Medicaid. So I'm not sure, you're looking at something different from what the rest of us may be looking at.
What you're looking at, not the rest of us, because there's a lot of people that don't agree with you. A lot of people, it's an opinion. There's people that think it's going to run out. I don't have that opinion. There's a lot of people that don't have that opinion. And I've actually discussed this with Ted on PBS, and he said, well, so-and-so says it's going to happen. I said, well, it's still his opinion. It's not a fact. And there have been cuts, and a lot of those cuts have been cut from the immigrants that aren't here illegally. There have been significant cuts. But if we don't do something, we're going to run out.
Is there anything that President Trump and the Republican Congress have done that you wish they had not done, or with which you would disagree?
I don't agree with everything they've done. At the same time, no one's going to make no negotiation. Does everybody walk away happy in a negotiation? Okay. The business cuts, where she keeps talking about the rich got a tax cut. Okay. That's not quite all true. I got a tax break in 2017, which is why I started my business. Now, had that big, beautiful bill not have gone through, we would have had the largest tax increase in our nation's history. And I would have had to lay people off. I would have had to raise my prices just to cover my overhead. And a lot of businesses would have closed. It would have caused a lot of lost jobs.
We'll go to the next question.
Can I follow up on that?
Okay, go ahead.
So the problem with the cuts on the big beautiful bill, the big horrible bill, is that you get to the point of you get to the midterms, and right after the midterms is when all of these cuts go into effect. So we're talking 376,000 Arizonans, 142,000 children are going to be cut. It suspends enhanced premium tax credits to help low and middle income families and small business owners to afford health care. 103,000 Arizonans could lose health coverage, and then 191,000 Arizonans would be at risk of losing some of their food assistance. And I think that when we're talking about, all these people that were on the rolls that aren't on there, our immigrant communities contribute billions of dollars to our tax base without using or utilizing any of the taxes. And when we're talking about the richest 1% of Arizonans earning more than $787,000 a year, you're going to get an annual tax cut of $83,000. $24,000, if you're making under $24,000, you're only receiving a $50 tax credit.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you. Back to Mr. Gutierrez. One of your campaign messages or slogans, I've seen it on your signs, is make Arizona safe again. So tell us what you mean by that. In what way is Arizona not safe, and how would you propose to address that and make it more safe?
Well, I'll give you a good example. We've had approximately 4 or 5 Walgreens closed. It was 4, but someone told me they think there's another one that closed. I don't know if that's accurate or not. But our Walgreens are closing because they can't afford the shoplifting. Food City is closing on 6th and the freeway because of the shoplifting and the homelessness. Okay, my I know my opponent she made a statement that it was Trump that caused it, but I'm telling you, the shoppers, the employees there, and the mayor of South Tucson acknowledged that it was the homeless that was causing that. And that directly comes down to we need to secure our border and stop the drugs from coming in here. We need to address the homeless crisis. Those are directly impacting the crime that's happening in our streets.
I think that when we're talking about public safety, it's really important to look at the root causes. So when this administration is cutting about $500 million for the Council on Criminal Justice, it's estimating 373 grants are being cut. Those are the cuts that are helping with prevention. So those are those early intervention programs that keep students in school. Those are the programs that Mr. Gutierrez is talking about when we're talking about the importance of offering support and help and counseling and interventions. Early interventions, those are federal dollars that come in through the state. There is no way that our state and our local governments are going to be able to absorb the cuts that are being implemented and going to be implemented across the board. We've had grants that have been cut throughout, not just in sciences and in safety, but in so many other programs that are supporting education. And so when we look at those cuts and what that means, there's going to be an increase in violence because we're going to have frustrated communities and we don't have opportunities for people to get ahead, especially when they have a misstep. Those early intervention programs are incredibly important and they make a huge difference.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
The problem here is, and I've spoken to Mrs. Grijalva on this, they've been spending a lot of money incentivizing homeless to come into our country from all over the world. I actually brought this up to her. At one point they set $400,000 aside for our homeless, which the crime is growing, the homeless population is growing, and set aside $20 million to put the migrants coming in across our border up in housing. Thank you.
All right, let's move on to another question.
Respectfully though, those are very different issues.
We're going to move on to another question, and then I'll get to you. All right. We've talked a little bit about education cuts, and the parents in this district, locally here, are seeing significant reductions in the funding for education of their children due to policies and cuts enacted through the current administration of the Congress. And more than half of the schools in our county are Tier 1 schools, which rely on federal funding for a significant amount of their budget. And the parents who are concerned because they're already seeing the effect of those cuts in the education and programs for their kids. Ms. Grijalva, will start to you, and then of course we'll go to Mr. Gutierrez, but are these funding reductions necessary? Are they too deep? Are they needed? Are they appropriate? Or what is your position about them?
So the Department of Education, Arizona receives about $1 billion for K-12 programs. And what that does is it funds Title I, Title X, Title IX. Those are grants that are issued through the state in order to support students that are struggling. So a lot of the after-school programs, smaller class sizes, incentives for teachers to sign, those are all paid for out of grants. And we also, the funding for meals are also being cut. And so my frustration is that what we're doing is we are creating a system of the have and the have-nots. If you are in a private system where you come from a family that can afford the extra, go to private school, that's amazing, good for you. I don't begrudge any family making the decision that they want to for their own child's education. But when you are taking empowerment grants, if you couple the empowerment grants that are being expanded at the state level and at the federal level, those cuts are significant. Just in one district, $17 million in one district. There is no way that we're going to be able to absorb those costs as communities, especially when Arizona is 50th, 50, in the nation for funding of our public schools. So when we look at those cuts, we're going to see increased class sizes, we're going to see stressed teachers, we're going to see what we don't do is we don't support our educators as the professionals that they are. And so we're going to see more and more people not opt to go into education. They're going to decide to go into other businesses and opportunities, because I don't think that in our nation, you should have somebody that wants to be a teacher but can make more money working at Starbucks. That's just not an equitable system. And for the vast majority, over 90% of us, we have our children in public schools, and we were educated through public schools. And so that's where I think that we have to continue to reinforce this idea that public schools are what opens the gates of opportunity for generations of young people. The fact that we are here, the vast majority of us went through our public schools. And so when we close those doors, when we limit Pell Grants, when we close the Department of Education, those protections for our students are gone. We have many children right now that don't know if their scholarship is going to be honored. And we will have more and more young people who are part of the 99% of us that don't have an opportunity for higher education. And in America, that's not the direction that we should be going in. And that's why when in Congress, I would fight to be on education and workforce on that committee so I can continue to fight for our public schools.
All right, well, this is a good question, because as a business owner, when something's not going right and the job's not getting done in a way that I'm satisfied with, I evaluate the problem. I don't throw more money at it, which is what politicians seem to want to do, just throw more money at the situation. Okay? I look to see what's going wrong, and I fix it. This is what's wrong with our schools. I'll tell you right now, Mrs. Grijalva's correct. We're 50th in the nation, okay? And we spend approximately $10,600 per student a year, when Iowa spends less, and they're ranked number 2. That tells me there's a problem. Arizona's doing something wrong that Iowa's doing right. Thank you.
So when I went to our public schools, we received $3,000 more per pupil, actual dollars, not inflation, actual dollars, than my child did when she went through the same school system. What we have in other communities and other states is they support preschool, they support kindergarten, they support early, before and after school programs. We don't do that here in Arizona. And so we're not 50th in the nation academically, we're 50th in the nation in funding. It is the fact that our school educators are doing an amazing job with the resources that they have that we're in the position that we're in as a state. And I think the more and more we talk about bringing economic development here, those companies are asking about, what about your public schools? And we cannot continue to support a system that divides our communities with the have and the have-nots, whether you have a public education or you have a private education.
The next question is to Mr. Gutierrez. Let's talk about immigration and the border. The border wall is not finished on parts of the border in this county. Homeland Security has ordered a continuation of the construction of the border wall, which is 3 stories and 30 miles long, to be continue to be constructed through really the San Rafael Valley, which is south of where we are right now. What is your position on the necessity and importance, or not, of the completion of the border wall?
Well, I've spent a lot of time traveling the border, watching what's happening at the border. We absolutely need to finish the wall. And the reason we need to finish the wall is because people need to be directed towards the port of entry, not just cross wherever they want. I don't know if any of you know Mr. Chilton, Jim Chilton. He has a ranch over here along the border. He's got 4 trail cams on his property, and he's been recording the activity on that property. Groups of 6 men all day long, different times, cross his property with backpacks on. Those backpacks are left at my father's property, which is beyond Mr. Chilton's property. Those are packs that they carried drugs in before the Trump administration took over again. There used to be an area there where the Border Patrol would checkpoint, so that before that, but during that time when Biden was in office, that checkpoint had nobody there, so they could take whatever they wanted across that, because the Border Patrol were down taxiing people from the end of the border wall to the Border Patrol station where they would check them. Then they'd take them over to 3 points, load them up on a bus, and then take them to the migrant camps and shelters. And we definitely need the wall done because we need to know who's coming into our country, and we need to stop the drugs. Again, I can't emphasize how important it is that we stop these drugs and start helping our people.
Crossing at the border is at an all-time low. And I think when you're looking at the borderlands, they're home to vibrant communities, cultural heritage, and very delicate ecosystems. This is not just a line in a map. I think when you look at the current physical changes, such as the additional border wall, the construction, it's disrupting communities, threatening sacred indigenous sites, and damaging fragile habitats. It's a huge impact on migration. I know how important birding is here in Patagonia. You have, 300 different species of birds, 600 bees, 100 different endangered or sensitive and protected species. Border security is important. It must be effective, humane, and respectful of human rights. But prioritizing modern technology and smart staffing, cross-border cooperation instead of destructive walls is the direction that I think we should go in. And any changes should be fully reviewed under environmental laws like NEPA, which Trump administration previously waived to rush these harmful projects.
I want to start by thanking you for giving Trump some credit, because I did say that the border was bad before. It's not so bad now, thanks to Trump.
All right, thank you. I think we're back to Ms. Grijalva. So, I'm assuming you've heard of this, but we have here, again, just south of Patagonia, the South 32 Hermosa project is a mining operation, and it has brought and will continue to bring significant changes to this community. We're talking about water use, land use, housing shortages. There are going to be environmental changes and impacts, and when fully operational, there'll be 200 trucks a day estimated when the mine is fully operational. And it's estimated that the mining operations could go on for 30 years. So do you believe that sufficient steps by the federal government and measures are in place to balance the interests of our local residents with the admittedly important economic interests being pursued by South 32 to extract and to refine these minerals, and why or why not?
No, I think that one of the reasons that I continue to stand with community and actively engage on the concerns surrounding this mining project. I think the Patagonia region and the Coronado National Forest are home to world-class biodiversity, and it's important to protect it. I think that when we're talking about mining specifically, we are dealing with mining law from 1872 that has not been reformed, not been updated. And so much of the ore and minerals that the claim is that we need them so desperately do not even stay in the United States. And a lot of the promises that are made by many of these companies, we don't see to fruition because they keep changing hands. And so right now, this is an Australian company, right? So much of the resources are not gonna stay here. And we always are made promises about the number of jobs that we're gonna see, the number of investments in communities that are gonna support mining. We rarely see that happen. And so I think that it's more important for us to really look at the concerns that are being brought by community members to their environment, to their water, and to air quality. And when we look here specifically in Santa Cruz County, 44% of the county's water system has PFAS contamination. That's not gonna get better with mining. It's gonna get worse. And I think in Arizona, we have many examples of how mining has impacted our environment. And I feel like we should look at those before we run headstrong into saying, yep, let's go ahead and expand it more. Because as I mentioned before, Ecotourism is incredibly important here in Patagonia. Many of the businesses that are here rely on tourists to come in and people to come through and look at the beautiful thing you have to offer. Once that is polluted, you're not going to be able to recreate it. We have it's world-class biodiversity, and that's where people come from all over the world to come see what you have. And also, I think it's important that there is archaeological evidence that the Ho'ono'odham and Pascua Yaqui presence are also in this area. And so when we're looking at those concerns, in addition to others, this specific mining project has already found to violate a number of federal laws, including the National Forest Management Act, Clean Air Act, National Environmental Policy Act, Endangered Species Act, and the Federal Land Policy and Management Act. In addition to not having, the EPA has already said that the mine's air pollution permit has inadequate provisions. So there's a lot of concerns here that we need to pack through before we start tearing into a space that is really beautiful and that we won't be able to replicate.
Well, most of my family were miners. All my tios were farmers, miners. My dad was a miner. And I do agree there is a lot of concern about mines. But ultimately, we need to understand we need to put regulations on these mines. We need to make sure that they follow regulations, that they're protecting our water supply, because we do live in a desert and we do depend on that water. But we're ultimately not going to be able to stop these mines. They're bigger than us, they got bigger pockets than us, and the government will continue to use the resources, sell the resources. So we need to make sure that they are doing it properly and safely and protect our environment. Thank you.
This is a question, there's all sorts of things that everyone can agree on, whatever political party you're from. And, there are just certain things like we haven't had immigration legislation, the budget deficit, the cost of college education, which is out of reach for all sorts of people in middle income groups, what's happening with the climate, affordable health care, access to affordable health care. These are things we've talked about for years, if not decades. But, our government isn't addressing them. It hasn't addressed them when you had a Democratic president and a Democratic Congress, although there was affordable health care legislation, but we need more. Or when we have Republican president, Republican administration. Our government, and no one even talks about the budget deficit anymore. Our government is just not working and seriously addressing these problems, and it appears to, I think, most of us, the problems are just kicking the can down the road, and the people who are in power are just hoping that the catastrophe doesn't happen on their watch. So I think we can all agree that there's a lot of major issues there government is just not addressing one way or another. Why is this happening, and what can we do about it? I lost I think it was Mr. Gutierrez's turn, yes.
Well, you're absolutely right. We can all agree with that. I'm sure Ms. Grijalva is going to agree with that. One of the biggest problems I see with it, they keep putting all this fat in it, and everyone's arguing about the fat and which one they're going to spend this money on and that money on. But I absolutely agree, our government's not doing anything. And that's why I'm tired of politicians going to Washington, especially ones that have been connected for years and years and years. They wind up part of a good old boy club. I think we need to start doing term limits. I think we should have had term limits a long time ago. I don't think being a politician should be a career. Okay? And it wasn't, our country wasn't set up like that. Men used to go to work, build their companies, work their farms, and then before they retired, they went ahead and gave themselves to their country, which is kind of what I'm doing. Because as soon as I'm done with this, I'm retiring, I'm taking my wife fishing. So, thank you.
I think that was a little bit of a veiled my dad was in Congress for a long time and I've been in politics for a minute, I do want to remind you that 20 years of that politician service was volunteer on a school board. So I think that that's a distinction. And the other is that I agree that part of the problem is we have a lot of big money, a lot of big lobbyists that get involved in local races and congressional races that try to push their weight around to influence elected officials. Too many of us are not, aren't bold enough to say, no, I'm gonna stand with the people. And one of the commitments that I have made before, my father did it as well, is that we are here for Southern Arizona. You have the opportunity every 2 years to decide who your representative is going to be in our democracy. And so I would be privileged to earn your vote and understand that that's only through December of 2026 when this community can decide whether we are the advocates you want. And so I am going to stand up for this community. And I am actually very proud of the endorsements that I've had trying to get big money and billionaires out of our races.
I just want to make sure that you know I was not referring to your dad. I was referring to all politicians, really. I have respect for your father, and I want you to know that.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
The other thing is, I want everybody to understand that I have funded my own campaign. I've gotten very little money. I've put $200,000 of my own money in. I'm not owned by anybody. So thank you.
Ms. Grijalva. So, COVID. The virus is still around, but thankfully we're past the pandemic level. But I think it would be naive to assume that that's the last time we're going to see some other infectious agent or pathogen that can come back or come and cause similar problems or worse. And so I think everyone would agree we need to plan for that. But my question is, what is your takeaway, looking back now, what we know about COVID and the COVID response, what's your takeaway about how well the government responded to COVID? What did we do right? What did we do wrong? What should we do differently next time? Of course, we don't know what the infectious agent or pathogen would be. That could affect everything. But just looking back at COVID, what did we do right? What did we do wrong? And what should we do to start to prepare and plan for the next unknown infectious agent?
I think that we had no idea what the ramifications were or how COVID was spread. So given that, keeping people home, there are pros and cons to that. We noticed with our older communities and students that were taking school at home, there were a lot of emotional stresses, and it was very stressful for a lot of us. Many of us are here today as a result of some of that isolation, as a result of immunizations, and as a result of the protocols that were laid out. But our government was focusing on vaccines for these situations. And right now, that funding has been cut. So I think that we will not be ready for the next endemic that comes, because we won't be prepared. Because this administration has also cut back on sciences, not only arts and music, but science and research. And so in talking to professionals at the University of Arizona who were in the middle of trials, those programs have all been cut immediately. So I'm very concerned with the attack on information, the attack on what you made a comment about, all of us can agree that certain things are a reality. I don't think that's true. I don't think everyone agrees that our climate and increases are a result of what we're doing to our earth. I don't believe that to be true. I don't believe that everyone believes that education is valuable and important. I don't think that's true. So there are very few things in this environment right now that we can agree to. That's the sad part. We used to be able to, it was a little more moderate.
The question was about COVID and whether you see, looking back on it, was there anything that we did as a government did that looking back on it, we should not have done, for example?
I think that given that we didn't have the information and we didn't know what it was and how it was spread. We did the best that we could, and everybody did. And then once we had more information, had vaccines, our communities opened up more, and I think that that was really important. But one of the first things that we had to do, I was on the school board at the time when we closed down schools, it wasn't trying to get laptops to students, it was getting food to students. We have so many of our young people that rely on our schools for food, and that's something that also has been cut by this administration.
Okay, well, first off, I'm not a doctor or a scientist, but I do know that flus, generally, when they first start out, a new flu, they have the ability to kill. And they're not supposed to, it's not their job. They're not supposed to kill their host because they survive on their host. But this flu was killing its host. And that being said, I was very fortunate. I'm a painting contractor, I own painting companies, and we continued to work. Me and my employees, we didn't go through what everyone else was going through. We never had to stop working. We kept right on working through it because we were an essential company. But I believe, and from day one, I thought that the elderly should have stayed home and protected, and the rest of us should have been out there keeping the community going. We wouldn't go work with the elderly. If they wanted us to come and paint their house, we wouldn't go there because I didn't want to endanger them. But I think they should have been kept safe, and the younger ones of us should have continued to function. But
So what about the school closures? Where would you stand on that?
I think the schools should have stayed open unless they had some parents that were older or grandparents that were there, because our elders should need to be protected. That was for sure.
All right, thank you. I think we're still with you, if I'm not mistaken. And this is about water. These rural communities out here and largely throughout this district where you would serve if you're elected, rely on groundwater for agriculture, ranching, daily life, run wells, and we're in a long-term drought, and this is, for example, is a horrible summer down here. We face serious concerns about the scarcity and quality of our groundwater. What do you believe the government should do to try to ensure that our water resources and supplies are protected, if not improved? And do you believe there is need for more federal oversight of this resource?
At this point in time, I think the federal government needs to come in and protect Arizona, because they got a blue project that Tucson just turned down, and now they're going over to Marana, and they're going to and if Marana goes with it, they haven't said they're going to go with it yet. But if they go with them, they're going to take the same water that they said they were going to take from Tucson, which is our drinking water for 2 years. I'm not okay with that. And if Marana turns them down, because they're businesses, and a business is always 3 steps ahead of the people they're dealing with, they're talking about going on the federal land and still using the water. They don't care what we're doing. These big companies are going to come in and they're planning to take the water. And I think our federal government needs to step in and do something. And that's the plus to me being, having not attacked Trump or anything like that. I believe if I'm elected, I can go in there and work with the administration and Congress to protect Arizona. Thank you.
Arizona must receive their fair share of water, and that is part of the state allocation. But I do think that federal influence on that process is important. I think farmers in California need to do their part as well. I think farmers in Arizona are doing an amazing thing. I think we need equitable solutions to our drought. It's important that when we're looking at the aging water delivery systems, especially in our rural communities, that's federal legislation and funding should go to improve that. And we need stronger water conservation efforts. One of the things that is really important in what we did in Pima County is looking to how do we continue to refill and replenish our aquifers. I think that's more effort needs to be made there, and we need to address the PFAS contamination in our communities. That's something that we have to do because it's in our water supplies, and every Arizonan deserves access to clean air, access to clean water, high quality drinking water, and we need to support our tribal nations in resolving their longstanding water rights claims. So all of these are efforts that have to happen, and we have to make sure that we're doing as much as we can on the conservation effort. I know Patagonia, every time I drive around here, I see all of the water harvesting, and we need to do more of that, but we need to stop these companies from coming in and taking our groundwater, because we need to do conservation efforts, but we need to do better at stopping these big companies from coming in and sucking up all our groundwater.
Then, back to Ms. Grijalva. The people who live here in this part of the county, and I assume in the east and the west, have seen the administration, federal administration of President Trump has built up more of a military presence on the border, including the National Guard. And my question is how do you feel about that? I mean, do you think this is a necessary thing? Is it a good thing? Is it unnecessary? And to the extent you think it's a good thing, and they should be here, should it be temporary or permanent, or what's the timeline?
I don't believe our National Guards should be deployed to police American citizens, and that's what's happening right now. Peaceful protests, I've seen, are a good, healthy thing in our community, and I feel like Trump doesn't want to see that. He doesn't want us protesting. And so what he's done is not only do we have the National Guard deployed, but he's also creating his own government with not doubling ICE's budget, but 20 times the budget. So he's going to have his own military force, larger than any other one, that he's going to be able to direct, to target individuals, the people that look like me, to be able to say, I don't think, I want to ask you about your documentation. I want to go into restaurants and ask people, walk around and intimidate people. I want to go to Home Depot, people that are working, and start asking them questions about whether they're citizens or not. That's the kind of thing that this administration is pushing. And I am not in favor, even the deployment recently in Washington, D.C. He's targeting individuals that are unhoused. I mean, that's what they're out there for. So I think that D.C. is at an all-time low in crime, but then he's deployed. I think it's sort of like a test to see how much we can be desensitized to these issues. So when he does it in other countries, in other states, that we're just like, well, he's been doing that, so it's okay. It's not okay. This is our democracy, and we have a representative democracy. And these issuing of the National Guard, issuing of declaring war, all of that should be going through the other branches of government, and it's not.
Well, for starters, he didn't actually just send the National Guard out to do that, and they weren't peaceful protests. They were throwing rocks and bricks at our Border Patrol, and he sent the National Guard out to protect the Border Patrol. So they were not peaceful protests. As far as that is, we've got a lot has happened in the last 4 years. And as a matter of fact, a paper up in Arizona just came out, and they're investigating the money that was given to the NGOs, because they've been ripping us off, giving NGOs money that are not a government agency, our tax dollars, to send to bring these migrants in, to put them in hotels, to take care of them. This has been a real big problem, and right now, the Trump administration is trying to address it. They're not going around asking people, because you look like my family over here, can I see your ID? This is just not so, okay? He is going after the dangerous criminals, and if there's someone with them that happens to be illegal, then apparently they're getting sucked up in it. But I'm hearing people say that they are doing raids daily here in the community. And if you Google it, there hasn't been one raid on the immigrants here in Tucson or over in Tucson at all, not one. So they're fear-mongering. They're leading you to believe that these are happening daily.
Let me ask you a follow-up, and then we'll get back to Ms. Grijalva to answer this question also, and to reply to anything you said. And along the same theme, the Trump administration is trying to negotiate or with Mexico, the Republic of Mexico, to possibly engage in military or paramilitary operations in Mexico to try to attack the drugs and the fentanyl at its source in Mexico, and the cartels, which are the source in Mexico. They're trying to move in that direction, and there's some negotiations with the Republic of Mexico on that. Would you support that endeavor?
He's asking them to do it, Mexico?
I don't think he just wants to go in there and do it without, some attempt to get some cooperation. They're a sovereign country. So I think my understanding is that that is under negotiation.
Okay, yeah, because I don't think we should go into another country.
I'm not in the room, but I mean, that's my understanding. So my question is, would you, if he had the legal authority to do that, or if he intended to do that, to attack that at its source, would you support that? Use of the military to do that?
Well, I know right now they're using the tariffs to try and get Mexico to take care of that, and I'm for that. But if you're asking if I think our military should go into another country and attack their situation, no, I don't. I don't think Mexico should come over and deal with our issues in our country. I think they're their own country. They need to deal with their own problems. And I do believe that he's using the tariffs as a negotiation to get Mexico to deal with their problems, and I'm good with that.
Mexico is an incredible partner to the United States, especially in our border communities. And so this fight that Trump has been picking with tariffs, whether we're gonna institute them or not, going back and forth, being disrespectful to the Presidenta Sheinbaum, I don't think is a really good move for our country. I think if there is a partnership and an effort to work together, I don't believe that we should be sending our military out to fight battles there, but we have to acknowledge the fact that we have our own problems in this country, where the demand for fentanyl is coming from us. So we have our own house to clean up and efforts that need to be made here in order to reduce the demand, and then work with Mexico on how can we partner with solutions. Because I think that that's really important. They are our greatest ally. And this whole idea that we are not dependent on each other is a falsehood, especially in CD7.
All right, well, it's 4:56 p.m. I think the intention was to stop at 5. I think both of you get, what?
Yeah, keep working.
So, yeah, a closing statement, right? And I don't remember how much time that was, but.
Sure.
1 minute.
1 minute, all right. Well, I want to give you both an opportunity to do that. I want to thank you both. The first one of the questions I had was, what are the areas of greatest disagreement between you? And I think we fleshed out some more of those, and that's what we're here to do. I want to thank you for how you presented yourselves today. It was a pleasure for me to engage in this. Ms. Grijalva, I think we started out with the opening statements with Mr. Gutierrez, so if you'd like to make a closing statement.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. I think that it's really important for us, even if we don't agree, to be able to hear each other out in a respectful way. I think that's important. I was born and raised here in Southern Arizona. I've lived here my whole life, and I know how important it is to have true representation, to be able to call up your representative, to say, this is what I need, and this is how I need your help. Whether we can help you in every capacity, whether it's a federal, local, whether it's a city or a county issue, but it's important to have partnerships. So if it's not something that that our federal system can help with, we can get you to the right person. And how are we working together collaboratively to come up with the best solutions? I know what our hopes and our struggles are, and I would be humbled to represent you in Congress. I think it's about ensuring that your voice in Southern Arizona is represented in the halls of Congress. It would be an honor and a privilege to represent this community, our community. My name is Adelita Grijalva. Thank you so much.
Let's give our guests their time. Thanks. That'll be done at the end.
All right, again, thank you for having me here. I want to make it clear that if you send me to Washington, if you select me to be your representative, I will be able to go in and do something while in Washington, because right now I would have more power than my opponent in Washington, as it is a Republican administration, Republican House, Republican Senate, and we only have 10 months to do anything. I would ask you to give me the opportunity to go in there and work for you, show you what I can do, and if I don't succeed, elect someone else next year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you everybody. Thank you so much to our guests. We appreciate you coming this way and being with us and being in this part of your district. It is an important part of your district. Thank you to our hosts here at the Tin Shed Theater for being in partnership with the Patagonia Regional Times and allowing us to put on this forum. Thank you, Judge Fink, for being here and asking such thoughtful questions. Those questions were put together by a committee and also submitted by you all as well. So thanks again. Thank you everybody for coming. Please be safe on your way home. And 35 miles an hour on Patagonia Highway here, I promise they watch.
Dan, we love you.